Welcome back to Celebrity Radio. It's Alex Belfield talking to some of my favourite people and some of comedy's biggest stars. And we've got one for you today. A man who's been encouraging other men to chase him for nearly 30 years is Duncan Norvelle. How are you?
Oh, all right, Alex. How are you?
I'm delicious, thank you. It's great to talk to you. I tell you why, because you're a proper act and you've been doing it so long. You've got a line for everything, haven't you?
Well, yeah, I suppose so. I mean, 40 years, you're bound to learn something, aren't you?
Well, you'd hope so. I mean, it's been an interesting career and a tough career because you're one of life's workers. I want to start, though, at the latter part of your life, which has been illness and recovering from a stroke. How are you, Duncan?
Getting stronger. I'm back to work. Just started doing a few shows and managing to do an hour on stage. But it's like everything else, you know. I need to start and just get fitter and fitter. But I had to start sometime, and I thought I'd better get out there and do it, you know.
Yeah. Tell us about that day and how it happened. You woke up and I think you'd got a headache, hadn't you? And it sort of developed from there.
Yeah, I'd had a bad day. I felt like, you know, my head was bursting a bit, and I thought it's just a headache, a bit of migraine, because I've had migraine before. And I went to sleep in the afternoon, it seemed to take it off a bit. And then I woke up, had my tea, and I thought, well, I'll go to bed now and sleep it off.
Yeah. And
I went to bed, and I told my lady at the time, she was in the business, I said, give me a ring after your first spot, when you've done your first show, and see how I am, just to check on me. And she rang about 9 o'clock, and I got out of bed to get the phone, and I realised I hadn't got any of my glasses. I left my glasses in the kitchen. So I stood up out of bed, and I just collapsed. I just fell straight down. And I didn't know why I'd fallen or anything. And then when I decided to, I thought I'd better get up. So I grabbed the bed, and I tried to pull myself up, and I got no feeling down the left-hand side. And I thought, I've got to go and get the glasses to see who's rung me. And I crawled all the way along the landing, down the stairs, and I got to the kitchen and got my glasses. And I got back up, but I couldn't walk. I couldn't get my left hand, my foot, or my left hand to support me. So I thought, this is a bit bad. So I went to the neighbours across the road, and they had a look at me, and they thought I was normal. They said, you look okay. So I went back in and went back home. I made myself a cup of tea, and I sat there thinking, and I thought, what could have caused that? And then I thought, I'm going to ring and go to the hospital. So I rang for a taxi, because it was a Saturday night in Blackpool, and I thought A&E will be busy.
Yes.
But I'll just get a taxi. And they came within a minute, and then the taxi driver helped me to the car. I got out the car, into a wheelchair, straight in, seeing the doctor. While he was examining me, I had a major stroke then, the big one. Wow. So the one upstairs was like the warning shot, as they say, and I had the big stroke at home. But if I hadn't been at home, if I hadn't got to the hospital when I did, and had the big one, they said I would never have survived the big one, the second one that came.
Right.
They said you would never have survived it. So how lucky was that?
Did you ever find out what brought it on, or is it just one of those things?
Well, I was quite a fit lad up until then, but they put it down to stress. You know, I worried a bit, I suppose, stress, strain. I mean, I was working, I was backwards and forwards to see my little boy. I'd gone through another divorce, because I've had 7. And things were going the wrong way up, as they say in the business. And I think it got to me in the end. And I was obviously thinking about the show. I'd got to come with 16 weeks with Cannonball. I was working on that in between running around to see my son. So it was quite an eventful time. And I think that's what brought it on. So,
on a scale of 1 to 10 right now, how do you feel? How fit and strong are you?
Well, I did Skegness the other week. I did a show there. The audience were fabulous. And we had a few hundred in. And I ended up doing an hour and 5 minutes, stood up for an hour and 5 minutes, which is a long while to stand and just do it. It's long enough when you sit.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
So, yes, I did okay, and I walked around a little. So, yeah, I'd say I'm 75% there.
I guess for you it's frustrating. I mean, I've seen your act many times, I've seen you live many times, and you're incredibly physical. I mean, there's a lot of running around the stage, on and off the stage, mucking about with the punters. I guess you have to tone that down now and just focus on the gags, do you?
Yeah, well, usually now I'm just walking on, and then I have a chair. So if I get tired, I sit down and talk to them, but then I stand up, you know, and I'm standing more. The longer I stand, I know it's doing me good, and I've got to be able to stand there for an hour. But I do miss running in the audience and coming back out, like you say. Yeah. You know, if you see me in my heyday, I mean, I was in and out 20, 30 times, weren't I?
Absolutely.
Pitching somebody's pint, and you know, it was all original stuff at the time. And asking them to chase you, because it was a great catchphrase. It still is. They all say, chase me.
Help me with the act then. When did you decide that was going to be the thing for you? I mean, Roy Chubby Brown decided to be sexist and homophobic and racist. Ken Dodd decided to have a tickling stick, and you decided to get someone to chase you. I mean, how did you think of that?
Well, when I was younger, I mean, I used to love watching Michael Crawford, because he was one of my first impressions.
Yeah.
And I loved John Inman. You know, I thought he was great in Are You Being Served? And I thought, I've got to find a character in between those two. You know, the boy next door that they like, and, you know, the one that's a bit camp. So I based it on that, and I came out with me. When I was first on telly doing the camp act, I mean, then I had to go to clubs and pubs, because I've always worked them. The thing was that I was going back there, and I was earning more than what I was the first time, because I've got to be a bit of TV. Yeah. It was harder to work, believe it or not, because it wasn't acceptable like it is now. Right. I mean, you're talking 15, 20 years ago. Yeah. I was before my time, before the Graham Nortons of this world and everybody else, you know. It was like, dare you do it? And I did, and it served me well over the years. How have the gay community reacted to the act of late and in the beginning? Because the difference between you and Graham and John Inman, I suppose, is that they are gay being themselves, whereas you're literally putting on an act, because you're not talking like you do on stage now on the phone, and you're not sleeping with men, are you? The thing is, I suppose it's because I do it in a nice way and not in your face so much. I mean, I think Graham Norton spit in your face, and Julian Clary is, personally. I mean, you ask gay people, they don't like to be perceived like that. You know, they don't like the way they are. Gay people don't act like Graham Norton. They're quite reserved people, you know. And I think because I go on, and most of the jokes are based on myself. Yeah. If I go on and I'm big, it's always about my sister or my brother. Yeah. Or something else. You know, I'm not picking on anything else but myself. You know, I'll say, my sister married a funny fella the other day. You know, she didn't know until the wedding night. She took all her clothes off and jumped into bed. Hmm. He took all his off, put hers on, and disappeared. You know. Then I tagged the gag by saying I found him.
Did you ever get hit on by guys?
Oh gosh, yeah.
How do you deal with that then?
I've got a next door neighbour who's gay, but he's half Iraqi and half American. He's his own worst enemy. He's gay. He's a bit camp, you know. But he loves me. Every time I go out, he always waves to me.
The thing about you is you had tremendous warmth on stage, and of course you were a good-looking man as well, and it was sort of so different and unexpected. I guess when you look at those videos back now of the 80s and 90s that are still on the TV, is it like watching your sort of son or your younger brother? How do you view it?
Yeah, I view it like that, yeah. I was looking at some the other night, actually, of the Terry Wogan show, Des O'Connor shows. It all started for me, though, with Saturday Royal with Lionel Blair from Nottingham, from the Theatre Royal. And looking back at those days, some of the material I was doing was a lot, it's up to date. It's up to date now, really. It's done full circle.
Help me with the PC stuff, because that's what they always throw at the 80s comedians. They say, oh, it's out of date and that it's perceived now as not PC. What's your take on all that nonsense?
I think they've gone a bit far with it. I mean, they do have a point, I suppose. Everybody has a point and an opinion, but I do think that people do take it too far. They don't have to take it too serious, but they do.
And funny is funny. I had Jim Bowen on last week, who's also like you.
How's Jim? Is he all right?
He is. He's struggling. He's struggling to walk, and his speech is also a bit off since he's had a third stroke last November.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, he's struggling a lot.
I know he'd had a couple of strokes, yeah.
But he was saying, one of the frustrating things about the business is that you do these jokes which are jokes, and now they're deemed non-PC. But when Ricky Gervais does them and people like that, they do them ironically, so it's okay. There is a double standard, isn't there, with the new comedians and the sort of variety comedians?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the new line of comics, do get away a lot more with their material than the what shall we say, mainstream comics like myself.
Yeah,
they do get away with a lot more. But I mean, I just think there's room for every kind of comedy as long as it's funny.
Yeah,
I
love what you do because there's a gag to all of it. There's a punchline. They don't seem to do that very much anymore, do they?
No, I mean they talk about observational comedy. Well, I can't really go on a stage and talk about a hairdryer for an hour, I mean, I want the fellas to be going out of there saying, I've got to tell me mate that one tonight in the pub,
Yeah.
I've got to do that. And they're easier for them to remember. They don't have to stand there and take half an hour to get to the punchline. So, I mean, I was brought up with people like Ken Dodd in this world, and the Frank Carsons, and the Les Dawsons, and they were the best comedians in my mind. But there are some great ones out there still.
Yeah.
Like, if you want to go down the alternate route, you got Lee Evans, who's absolutely unbelievable. I mean, I know his father well, Dave Evans. And Lee works very hard at his material. All the while, he's got something new.
Yeah.
He's excellent. And, of course, you've got Lee Mack, who I think is hilarious.
Yeah, very good.
All right, excellent.
Let's talk about the days in the clubs at the beginning and then your TV era. You mentioned earlier that you've had 7 divorces, is that right?
The last count was about 7.
Yeah, 7. That's remarkable. How sexy was your life on a scale of 1 to 10? Because let's face it, most comedians are wolf ugly and you weren't. And you clearly had an affinity with the ladies. Was it an amazing life and career in terms of the ladies and the showbiz of it and the hedonism?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I lived in the fast lane, that was it. Yeah. I was never one for the partying.
Right.
I liked to go do my show and get home, Unless I was in London, then I'd go out and see a bit of the nightlife or Manchester. But I was never one for the big show business parties. No, that didn't interest me.
Why is that? Were you intimidated by them, or you just thought they were all nonsense and pointless attending?
Yeah, I would say that.
I guess when you're a touring comedian, you have infinite opportunities.
They were good housekeepers.
They come at a price, though, don't they, Duncan?
They kept the houses.
Yes.
I always had this saying in show business, Alex. I said, when I finish a show and I go home,
Yeah.
and I go through my front door and I walk upstairs and there's a bath running,
Yeah.
you don't know what that means to me. And then all of a sudden there's a cup of tea put in my hand and a bacon sandwich. Honestly, you don't know what it means to me. And then I get in a bed and the new sheets, and it's lovely and warm. You don't know what that means to me. Do you know what it means to me?
Go on.
It means I'm in the wrong house. That's what it means to me.
Do you know what I love as well is the days of what you did have gone, haven't they? There aren't the clubs, there aren't the theatres, there aren't the summer seasons, there aren't even the pantomimes on the scale that you were doing them. You certainly had the heyday of the variety scene, didn't you?
Yeah, I was at the right time for the variety. And now I'm at the wrong time because there's less and less on telly.
Yeah.
So it's like you either change to go along with the comedy today, but there again, I don't really want to change. I like the way, I've done it for the last 30 years. I don't want to change something that's served me well.
Have producers and directors said to you in the past, if you drop the camp act or if you do it this way, we'll put you back on telly? Has that been a discussion?
No, what a great question that is, because, the passing of Scylla, bless her.
Yeah.
Well, I was asked about Blind Date. And what happened there was I'd done several TV shows, Saturday Royal, Des O'Connor, Blankety Blank, and all of those. And at the time, I was like so popular. I was well known. My catchphrase was known everywhere.
Yeah.
It was chase me this and chase me that. And I got approached. I got a phone call from London Weekend Television asking me to come to London. They've got a show I might be interested in hosting. And I thought, wow, this is my big moment. So I went down to London and I met the producer, a lady called Giblin Stribblebright. Jill Stribbling-Wright, that's her name.
It's a mouthful, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's very funny. That brings me on to the and hang on, that's my juggler. I've got my lady here. She's doing some ironing, but I think she just fell over after that one. Are you all right? It's all right, it's me Julie. Come and say hello, me Julie. Hello.
Keep her busy, that's the thing. Keep her distracted and busy.
The trouble is, I don't know. What are you doing here? Have I left the back door open? Carry on, Mum. She's all right, she just knocked a candle off the...
Oh dear.
She did it last week, she's done it this week as well. Anyway, I got down there.
Yeah.
And they got this show, and it was called It's a Hoot. And that was the name of the show in America. And they got the tape of it, and they put it on, and they showed me it. And I looked at it, and I thought, oh, yeah, but they'd have to change that and change that. I said, but it could work. So I had a month in London working on that idea.
Yeah.
And they recalled. Well, they did it, and I chopped and changed it, and we called it Blind Date.
Wow.
And of course, I did the pilot at London Weekend Television. There would be 500 people there, and I went on, they wanted me to be camp.
Right.
They wanted me to camp it up, and so I did, and it was hilarious. It was I got cameramen crying and laughing, and they said they hadn't seen people laugh so much in a studio audience since Bruce Forsyth did the Generation Game.
Right.
So I thought, wow, I must be onto something here. Jill Stribling-Wright said, I think you'll get this, Duncan. I said, oh, great, Jill. She says, when we edit this, it'll be wonderful. So off they went and edited it, and I never saw the finished version, but I was assured it was fabulous. Because I camped it up, how they wanted me to do it, it went to the powers to be, and they thought it was a bit much having a camp host.
Right.
Just in a show when they're going to be sending couples away for a week or so, to get to know each other.
Yes.
And the camp thing wasn't popular at the time.
Right.
But that made me laugh, because on the pilot show, we sent her to Bournemouth for 2 days, and the Isle of Man for a couple of days. There were none of these exotic holidays that Scylla went on,
Right.
because they didn't know how much to spend, because they didn't know how popular it was going to be. So the powers to be wouldn't let me do it. Then they said they need more of a motherly figure or a fatherly figure.
Right.
And Max Slygraves was in the camp for it, and Scylla. And Scylla got it. I mean, she did a great job of it, and it ran for 19 years, and she was fabulous. But I honestly think at the time, looking back, I mean, if they'd have given it to myself, I mean, I would have done a good job, and I think I'd have been very successful with it, because I was before my time.
Right.
And I think that if anybody was, any papers got hold of the fact that the couple we sent to Barbados last week, he was a bit of a love cheat and all this, and then come and found me,
Right.
I would probably let the cat out of the bag, where Scylla wouldn't have done.
Yes, she's more discreet.
Yeah, she's more discreet. I said, well, I knew he was married, He told me. It would have been one of those, wouldn't it? Well, I knew he was gay. I just don't know.
All right, help me with this question then. How do you get over the bitterness in show business when you know somebody's had a 20-year career with a show that could have been yours and you didn't get it? You were second in line. I spoke to Joe Pasquale's son, Joe Trishini, last week, and he was second in line to be Harry Potter. I don't know how you ever get over that. It's tough, isn't it?
Who told you that?
It's true. Joe Pasquale's son was cast. He was second in line after Daniel Radcliffe. True.
He lost it. He come to see me in hospital when I'd had the stroke,
Yeah.
And I lying in bed. It's funny. It was one afternoon, and I could hear everybody in the hallway laughing.
Right.
And of course, I'm there with the curtain pulled round my bed. I'm trying to get some sleep. And he pulls the curtain open himself, and he goes, "You're not so clever now, are you?" I thought, my God. I said, Joe, have you claimed? I said, claimed? How can you claim for a stroke? And then, of course, the doctors come and the nurse come, and they're laughing their heads off, and he's laughing. And I'm thinking, only he could have done this. And he was working at the Grand Theatre, and he'd heard about it. And he come straight up, just left rehearsals and came straight up to see me. Bless him.
I think he's one of the nicest men in show business, actually. I truly do.
Yeah, I do.
So as we sit here today, is your plan to do more shows and to get the show back on the road, maybe a few shows a month? Or
I'm sorry, Alex, about how do I feel about it.
Yes.
Well, at the time, I was a bit, not annoyed, I was just more or less sad that I put all that work and time and effort into it.
Yeah.
And nothing came of it.
Right.
And what's more, like, no other shows were offered to me.
Right.
It turned out to really be camp,
Yeah.
I've got a brilliant game show at the moment that I've wrote myself because I've had plenty of time.
Yes.
And I've wrote a fabulous show. I'm now just about to go and do the pilot for it. I've been lucky enough to get the funding to do the pilot.
Wow.
Of the show. And I'm going to take that to BBC or ITV, depends which one, and I think that could be quite an interesting show. That, and it's a variety show.
Yeah.
It's a variety show with a twist to it.
Well, we wish you all the best with that. I know the business has been very, very kind to you in many ways, and you've had your lows like losing Blind Date and then the highs of getting other shows. As you look back at this point, are there more highs than lows? Because it is a tough business, and you're one of show business's fighters. I mean, every show is your last. You have to go and do another one and another one and another one. I have great admiration for that, because there's no 5 million signing on fee for you like there has been for many of the TV people.
No, I've had to graft for it, Wherever, the thing that telly did for me was to get me better work from out the clubs into theatres.
Yeah.
And at the time, I could fill theatres. I don't fill them now so much, but I still get a reasonable audience in. And I was making a very good living up until my stroke.
Yeah.
It's just that I've had a couple of years in the wilderness, but it's given me time to re-look at my act. I've got lots more jokes and gags and a few more impressions, and I use the audience still, and I'm singing well. My voice has come back well.
Yeah.
My singing's getting stronger, and I'm getting stronger. But I honestly think about another year, if I keep making headway like I'm doing now, touch wood, I could be actually running in and out saying chase me,
Is there anything more debilitating for a star like yourself not to be able to perform? Is that the worst?
Yeah, I hated it when I was in hospital. I had a year not doing nothing apart from writing and putting things together. But I always believed I'd get out of there. I ended up then going to rehab for a year. So I've had it tough, and I've been backwards and forwards here and there. I've had this operation, that thing. I've had, you've got all your bloods re-looked at again and again and again. And, hospital appointments, it's ridiculous. But the NHS have been absolutely wonderful, I've got to say that, Alex.
Yeah. Well, that's when they come into their own, isn't it? And you don't realise how much you need them until something like this happens.
Exactly.
And then I look at your personal situation, and I know you said you'd had stress and worries at the time and many issues over the years that maybe brought on this. How are you emotionally now? How are you in terms of your happiness and contentment?
Oh, I'm happy now. I've got a lovely lady as well. She's lovely. She's supported me all the way through it, and she's been wonderful.
Are you the kind of guy that has to have a lady in your life? It seems to me that you struggle to function by yourself. You need that companionship, don't you?
Yeah, I do.
And do you feel blessed that you've had so many wonderful people? You've got 3 great kids.
Yeah, they're lovely. That's the main thing. I'm still here for them,
Yeah. And were they supportive through your whole ordeal of the last 2 years?
Yeah, they have, yeah. All my wives have been fabulous with my children.
What's Christmas like? Do all 7 of them turn up? It must be a big table.
No, the ex-wives don't come. Depends on the weather, if it's really rough, they'll be out gritted. One of them turned up last Christmas, and it was about 8 foot of snow.
Yes.
That bad Christmas, and she's outside banging on the window, and I kept looking at her, and I thought to myself, if it gets any worse, I've got to let her in. It's just... they've been good. I shouldn't say that, really. They have been good.
Have you worked out why you get bored quickly, or that you're the kind of guy that has to move on? Have you looked at that? Oprah would say that you could start a conference with a man who's had 7 wives.
Well, I suppose it's been a good life,
Yeah.
I've had some fun.
You certainly have.
I mean, I should have took heed of what my granddad always used to say to me. If you want to succeed in life, you've got to open doors. If you want to succeed in life, you've got to open doors.
Mm.
Yeah, he's dead now. He got sucked off an aeroplane. But yeah, no.
I love that. Duncan, I hope to see you live at some point in the very near future. I know you had that DVD out. I'm not going to talk about it because I know there was a lot of business stuff that went on with that Indie Club stuff. I know it was bought by a TV channel that then sold it on, and I don't know, do you make any money from that DVD? Because it is wonderful and it is a great way of watching your act.
No, that was another sore point.
Yeah. The business is full of a lot of shits in places, isn't it? You do have to protect yourself.
Yeah.
It's a tough old game.
Be very careful, whatever, even these people that come with the phones and video, and they put the clip on, on YouTube, it's your act, it's your living.
It's your livelihood, yeah.
Yeah, and they're playing with it. It should be.
If it is you, though, you can have it removed. You can write to YouTube now and get it taken down if it bothers you.
Yeah, I know.
You should.
It's even worse if they take it to the benefits and they see me walking up and down on a stage.
Yes, you've got to be very careful with that these days. Cameron wouldn't like that, would he? If you're doing your Spencer impression on stage and the next minute claiming disability.
I was at Skegness, and I got up to do film stars, some John Wayne's and Curtis.
The Westerns, yeah.
Yeah, and I went to walk along the stage, and I walked from one end to the other, but I forgot my stick.
Right.
And I got to the other end, and I says, "Oh, that's me bugging now both ways." First way I forgot my stick, and the second way I shouldn't be walking this far. If anybody's recorded this, there goes my benefit. It brought the house down,
Absolutely. I've loved talking to you, Duncan. I wish you all the best and continue with your recovery and get back on stage. We need to see you, and I thank you for your time. Is there anything I can plug for you right now, or is there a website that we can send people to?
I'm doing Melton Mowbray, a little theatre where I live. Roughly, I live in Leicestershire, just outside of Leicester, and I've got Melton Mowbray has got a wonderful little theatre. I'm there on November the 4th, I think it's the 4th. You probably would have to check that date.
Okay.
But I think it's the 4th if anybody's listening and they want to come and see me around the Midlands area, then that's where I'll be on that particular day, and that's my last one, because I've done about 4 this year, but I've done them all for the Stroke Association.
Oh, lovely.
Because they've made me chairman of the Stroke Association for my area, so that's nice of them.
Great.
I've already raised a few quid for them, so we're doing well with it.
That's lovely. I'm going to come and see you there if that's okay. Save me a ticket, because I'd love to see you again.
Melton, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Duncan Norvelle, one of entertainment's greats. What a life, what a career. Thank you so much for your time.
And thank you, Alex.